Every election, this is a question that New Democrats get, so it's not like a new thing. Every election we get this question. And if people are wondering, will I give up on someone like Aaron? Will I give up on fighting for people that need me to fight for them? No, hell no. I'm never going to give up. I don't care what's going on. I'm always going to be there to fight for people.
Jagmeet Singh on the campaign trail today, responding to questions from reporters about the NDP's kind of fall from grace when it comes to public opinion polling and the numbers that they've lost over the last week that largely have been to the advantage of the Liberals. I'm here with our front bench, Brian Gallant, Lisa Raitt, Tom Mulcair, and Rob Benzie. Tom, the question was initially posed based actually on the piece you wrote for our website that essentially said because of the risk Trump poses and the threat of Trump, it is a two-way race. Why do you believe that's the case? Is there any way up the middle for the NDP, for example?
Going to be very hard because both parties are trying to straddle the middle right now, the main ones. In other words, Carney is saying to Canadians, that's where I am. And he's pulling the Liberals a little bit to the right from the Trudeau years. Poilievre is trying to put a little bit of water in his wine. He's saying that he's going to maintain social programs and he's going to provide a $15 billion tax cut. Not saying how he's going to pay for it, but everybody is playing the same game right now. The stakes are that high. This is a time of real crisis for Canada's very existence. And that existential threat from Trump, from the United States, is making those two parties, the only ones who can possibly form government, the only games in town. Now, I used to live the frustration of being an NDP leader and hear Liberals talk about, oh, strategic voting, don't split the vote, as if the vote belonged of right to the Liberals. It used to drive me nuts. But this time, nobody has to make that plea. Voters are doing it on their own. In Quebec, the bloc is dropping like a rock in water, or at least it was until yesterday's brilliant decision, and we'll get to it to stay out of the debate there. But with regard to the very fact that we're looking at right now, the NDP in single digits in most of the polling. In Quebec, down to 6%, where we won 59 seats a few years back with Jack. So even in the 15 election that we lost, we kept a dozen seats in Quebec. So this is a time in the cycle of the life of the NDP that they've been through before. It happened to Alexa McDonough, who was an outstanding leader, and Jagmeet Singh's a great leader. He's a very strong leader. He's a warrior, and he's got all the lines, and he's pushing his stuff very hard. But Canadians are saying, sorry, we're on the progressive side, and whether you're a Green or an NDPer, you're looking at this, and we were just listening to the polling before we went on air. The number of, the more progressive conservative types, the Doug Ford conservatives, they're moving over to Carney. Vashi, in the past week, I've spoken to senior NDPers, especially in the West, who are simply working for and planning to vote for Mark Carney and the Liberals because they sense the existential threat. They find that Pierre Poilievre is too easily identified with the ideas of Trump, rightly or wrongly, but that's the perception, and they plan to vote for the Liberals. And that's why the numbers for the Liberals are being, doped up right now.
Why do you think that the NDP is certainly trying to frame, Lisa, the two other options as conservative options? Why is that not landing with progressive voters right now?
I think it's fear. Tom's really tapped into it. It's going to be a binary choice at the ballot box. Are they going to go for option A or are they going to go for option B? And the NDP aren't necessarily making the cut. There are going to be some ridings, though, where the NDP are going to win on the basis of incumbency. But that's the other problem. There are some strong incumbents who are not running this time. The Standard Bearers, the Charlie Anguses, the Carol Hughes, they're not running again. And as a result, there's going to be some softness in their ridings as well. So, Jagmeet Singh has a big hurdle, not only in terms of trying to get attention, but as well saving the seats so that he actually can become an official party status still. And that's a big deal.
You know who is running again, Benzie? Sean Fraser, a few months ago, more family time. As I joked to you at the time, don't believe anyone who's been married a long time when they say they want to spend more time with their spouse. Turns out he didn't. He's now running again. Is this just, hey, I thought I wouldn't win and now I will?
I don't want to be too cynical about these things, Vashi, but we had Anita Anand, we had him, and then I guess when Nate Erskine-Smith got in cabinet when Trudeau was still prime minister, he decided he would be sticking around. Right. It's politicians are they read the tea leaves, and I guess it's a very good sign for Mr. Carney that Mr. Fraser feels that it's safe to come back. I think I watched Carney and he wasn't reading a teleprompter when he was talking about bringing Fraser back. And he looked so confident, I thought, in this Nova Scotia appearance earlier today. And I also noticed something, and this is a pretty subtle thing, Vashi, but Carney's podium now says protecting Canada. That is basically a plagiarism of Doug Ford's re-election campaign in Ontario last month, which was Protect Ontario. I know that Mr. Carney has studied Mr. Ford's playbook. Now he's like lifting the actual phraseology from it. And I think that's probably smart, given what our friend Corey Tenaik, who helped get Mr. Ford reelected last month, was saying on a podcast this morning, where he talked about how he didn't think the strong Canada First for a change was a very good slogan for the Conservatives. So the branding and the vibe tells you that the Liberals feel very confident. But, you know, there's a lot of time between now and Election Day.
And there are those two debates. There was going to be a third one, Brian. Last word to you on this. I'm unfortunately running out of time. But TVA hosted last time a face-to-face debate. They asked the parties to pay into it. Everyone agreed. Mark Carney yesterday said, why not? Then later in the day, party said, I'm not participating. The debate was canceled. Today he said it was because Elizabeth May wasn't invited. Your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure that's the reason, or maybe it's one of the considerations, I suppose. But really, look, I think it's fair for them to say, we're going to do the commission debates. There's an English and there's a French debate. And where Mark Carney stands in the polls, coupled with he does not have the even close to the political experience that Poilievre has, especially at debating. I certainly understand the political strategy behind saying, let's do the commission debates. On Sean Fraser, I think we have to be fair to the guy, though. Think about the day that he announced he resigned. Later that day, Freeland resigned, and the whole political landscape in Canada just, sort of completely changed within minutes. So certainly give the guy a break on that. And on the NDP stuff, I have to say, so Tom, sorry, I'm certainly one of the people that made the argument to not split the vote during an election. But to tell the story from the other side, it is sometimes difficult when you go in a coffee shop, which happened to me, and say, well, we're voting for a so-called third party. And I said, well, we may not form government if you do that. He said, oh, you'll just form government with the so-called third party. And that didn't end up happening, and somebody else formed the government. So it's telling you the other side of the story, Tom.
Cuts
that can be
both
frustrating
ways.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you. Brian Gallant, Lisa Raitt, Tom Mulcair, and Rob Benzie, our front bench.